So when people think about the classical guitar, they probably think about an instrument that hasn't changed for, I don't know, 100 years or so. And partly why I think this is because when you look at somebody like Francisco Terraga playing guitar in the late 1800s, it looks pretty similar to the guitar that we're playing nowadays. And if you look at a photo of somebody playing the electric guitar from the mid-90s, it looks pretty different than the guitars that we have nowadays. Now, these kinds of changes do exist in the classical guitar world. I just think they're not nearly as talked about as much as they are in the electric guitar world. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. Welcome back to another episode of For the Classical Guitarist. My name is John, and in this video, we're going to be talking about some of the changes that happened to the classical guitar over time. So let's get started. Now, the first one that I want to start with isn't actually that uncommon, and that's going to be the bracing. Now, most guitars, such as the one being played by Francisco Terraga, like I mentioned earlier, use what's known as fan bracing, and it looks something like this. As you notice, the guitar has little lines that almost look like a little fan. But a more modern design to this, which is, again, pretty common, is what's known as lattice bracing. And lattice bracing looks like this. As you notice, there's tons of crosses over and over, and this was done primarily to make the guitar louder. And as you're going to see, this is going to be a pretty common theme in some of the changes that being made to the guitar, so keep that in mind. Because the next one goes hand in hand with that, and that would be what's known as double tops. So as the name suggests, double tops just means two tops. So unlike a traditional guitar where you have just a single layer of wood as a top, on a double top, of course, you have two. You have two layers of wood and being all pieced together with something in between, kind of making almost like a sandwich type top on it. Now, the whole idea of a double top is to make the guitar louder, and it definitely does that. All the double top guitars that I've seen in person definitely are much, much louder. But the thing that I find interesting about double tops isn't necessarily their volume, but more so is going to be the color that you can get from them. Because you have two tops, you have two options. You could have one guitar that has cedar as a top and then spruce underneath, or vice versa. Or if you like, you could have all cedar or all spruce. So yeah, double tops definitely allow the player and the builder to have more options when it comes to creating tone on their guitar. Are they better? Maybe, maybe not. You decide. Are they louder? I think so. Okay, so now we're actually at the portion of the video where I can actually demonstrate some of these things with my guitars. And the next one I want to talk about is going to be what's known as an armrest. And it looks something like this. So just like the last two, the whole purpose of the armrest is to make it so that the guitar actually can be louder, because you're not putting your arm on top of the guitar, and because of that, the body actually has more room to resonate. But as a player, the thing that actually is more important to me is going to be how much more comfortable it is for your arm. You're not putting the side of the guitar where it's a little bit sharp into the soft part of your arm. You're actually resting on something that's nice and smooth and actually helps your arm slide when you're trying to change positions. So armrests are pretty important. Personally, I like them on any guitar I play. Do I need them? No, there are other workarounds, but having them on guitar for me is definitely a big plus. This next one I don't think makes the guitar that much louder for the audience, but it does make it much more louder for the player. And what that would be a Soundport. So as you notice, there's a hole over here, and it's pretty big. And the whole idea of this is that when you're playing it, it allows the guitar to actually be much louder for the player because the sound is going up towards them as opposed to going away towards them, towards the audience. Now you might be asking, why would we want this? So the biggest reason is because we want to be able to hear ourselves. Normally if we're playing alone, it's pretty easy, but if we're playing in a chamber music setting, such as maybe guitar and violin, or even guitar and string quartet, it can be pretty hard to hear ourselves over those other instruments that are right next to us. And hopefully the audience can still hear us, but as players, we need to be able to hear so we know how to make adjustments to what we're hearing around us. And a Soundport makes it so much easier to do that. Honestly, on most guitars, I think they should have them. It just makes it so much easier. And if you don't love it, you can also just cover for it. So that way it is almost like the Soundport isn't even there. But again, some people don't like them, and some people really think that most guitars didn't have them in the past. So why would we need them now? We'll get more of that later, but just something I wanted to share. This next one is on another guitar of mine, and that would be what's known as a raised fingerboard. So as you can see here, the fingerboard is actually going up from the body. It's not flat. And this is a few things. Number one, some people say it makes the guitar a little bit louder because, again, you have much more room to resonate, which is going to be a big thing in guitars. But as a player, the big important thing about this is that it actually allows hitting the higher frets to be much, much easier. Many people who are playing pretty advanced strap think this is something that they definitely need, and you're going to see many concert guitar players using this today. Not all of them, but a handful of the big name ones definitely use it. So definitely think about that. The next one that I'm going to be talking about isn't actually that common. I've only seen it on this one guitar. I don't know any other makers who are doing it. I'm sure there are, but not that I've seen. And if you look very closely, what you're going to notice is even when the guitar neck is straight up, you notice that the frets themselves are actually angled. This is what's known as multiscale, and maybe in electric guitar talk, it's actually known as fan frets. Now what this does is it allows the guitar to be ever so slightly more in tune. But the thing as a player that I find it actually makes it a little bit more comfortable to play. And you might be thinking that if you're used to the frets being normal, it might be tough to adjust to this change where the frets are actually at an angle. Believe me, every player who I've talked to who's ever played this guitar that has the multi-scale on it has not said a single thing about it being weird to play or trying to adjust to it. It actually fits in the hand pretty comfortably, which is why it works so well. Okay, now for this next one, I unfortunately can't show you my guitars, even though both of them have it, because when I was trying to do it before, I was trying to angle it, and the guitar kept hitting into the bookcase, and I couldn't find a good angle. But it looks something like this, and it's what's known as a 12-hole bridge. And as I'm sure you can guess by the name, the bridge just has 12 holes in it. So the question is, why do we want this? Number one, it is said to give the guitar a bit more volume. Like I said, that is a pretty common theme for why we're making these changes to the guitar. But number two, what it does is that it actually allows the guitar to be ever so slightly more in tune, and as a player, it allows the guitar to be restrung much quicker. There isn't a whole lot more to say about this, but honestly, like I said, it makes it so much easier to change strings, so that alone is a big plus for me, because classical guitar players, most of us at least, hate changing strings just because it takes forever. So for these last two, unfortunately I can't show you on my guitars just because my guitars don't have them, and one of them is actually pretty uncommon. I haven't seen it at all on any guitars. But the first one is going to be what's known as an adjustable neck, and again, as the name suggests, the neck is adjustable. Why would you want this? Personally, I don't see much of a benefit for it, but I will say some people seem to like it because you can adjust the action how you want it. If you're getting buzzing, you can change it yourself. You don't need to go in and bring it to a guitar repair person or a luthier to have it fixed. And this very last one is what's known as true temperament frets. And they look a little weird. They look almost like the frets are kind of squiggly over here. Now, the big thing I'll say about this is that I haven't seen this that often. The only person I've seen making these is going to be the maker Kenny Hill. And I guess these follow a similar idea to the multi-scale in that they're supposed to make the guitar even that much more true temperament. Now, as somebody who just has a pretty average ear, I'd say, I don't know if I would really notice a difference, but someone out there with perfect pitch might actually be able to tell you that this guitar is way more in tune than any other guitar they have. Is that true? Maybe, maybe not. Is it needed? You can decide, but either way, a cool idea, and some people seem to like it, so I guess maybe it'll catch on. For all we know, maybe this will be the big thing in the next 20, 30 years, and all guitars will be true temperament. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so this video is just about done, but before we end, I want to actually ask you a question and also leave off with a quick story. So the story is, a little while ago, I was asking a pretty well-known guitar player about what he thought about all the things I just mentioned, or at least most of them. And his main comment was just, you know, Andre Segovia was playing in the biggest concert halls in the world, and he didn't need any of that, and people still heard him. Does that make those things bad? Not necessarily, but are they needed? And that's kind of what I want to leave off and ask you. Do you think these things on the guitars are things that are needed on them, or do you think they're just pretty unnecessary? Let me know if you guys have any of these things on your guitars, or if you want some of these things on your guitars if you don't have them. Anyway, now that's all for this video. So if you guys are new here, hopefully you like what you saw in this video and if you found it helpful and interesting. If you guys like this video, hopefully you consider also checking out some other videos of mine. And if you like those, it would mean a great deal to me if you considered subscribing to the channel. Hopefully that way I can just reach more people and we can get more people checking out cool videos about classical guitar. If you guys have any questions, of course, leave them down below. And like always, if I missed something, of course, let me know in the comments as well. Anyway, that's all for now. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.